Hello once again, this is Tony, also known as T Jinx on Instagram and Healing Reveal on Facebook. A few minutes ago, well, about an hour ago, I posted my homemade past life connection spread, and I had a request for someone else who, kind of liked the format. Um, that video's up, and it was basically the relationship between a current adult and a current child that were not related, but there is an obvious connection between them. So we were trying to figure out what the nature of that was. So I got presented with another person who had the same, scenario. So let's see what's going on here. Um, this one was starting to feel interesting. Breaking down the cards before I get into speaking on them. The first card is the questioner. So in this case, this will be the adult that's wanting to know what's going on. The second card will be that child that they're trying to figure out the connection is. The third card would be the connection itself. The fourth card would be the adult's gender, the child's gender, their mutual life lesson, and that's a six of coins in reverse. And then the seventh card would be what time period or when, and I have a format for that. And the eighth card would be the critical situation, or basically what was going on during that time period they were in. And as I stated with the first video, the time period, if it ends up to be like a famine period or war period, it will play a part in whether that life lesson gets completed. You can be thrown in war and your life lesson is love and light, but ain't gonna be much love and light that you can get produced in a war time situation, especially if you are serving as a soldier. So sometimes your life lessons do get altered or pushed back or put in a partial status. So sometimes that comes up, so be aware of that when you're doing readings that deal with past lives. So again, the eighth card is the critical situation. The ninth card is their response to that critical situation, or basically how did they handle it. And then the 10th card is the advice for their current situation, what energy they can take from this past life into the present life. At that point, if there's any other additional cards that need to be thrown, I will throw them. But getting into the reading, the first card again is significant of the person that's asking the question. So the adult in this situation came up with the King of Wands in reverse, staves or wands. King of Wands in reverse. By my normal reading format, the King of Wands is basically a manipulator. He's like, kings are authorities and wands are movement, fire, and he's a person who is just like always in charge as far as it. King of Wands on the upright. So with the person being in the reverse, this is just person who is not really owning his own energy. He's more or less been manipulated or put into a state of submission. Now that pairs off with the second card, which is the child in this case. The child came up as the star card. So what it's feeling like is that this child here is the person that's holding all the energy, but it does not feel like that's who's manipulating the first person. It feels more like he's another version of this first person that I defer to your own beliefs. This is new to me. I've seen it once or twice before, but I'm going to go with what I feel and what I've already encountered. What it feels like is that this child is simply another version of him. We all talk about doppelgangers and things like that, but they bear the same energy, and it comes out further along in this reading. I haven't even got down there to it yet, but I already see it. So whereas he's basically fallen off of his throne, this child is basically a throne type energy. He's a star, and he is embracing everything about himself, whereas this person here has let life show him defeat, and he's basically just in a state of submission. He's easily manipulated. Even within the amount of energy that he has on him or around him, if he's not owning it, then others are. And this star child right here is just like, he ain't here to have that. If you need to see a version of yourself so that you can be reminded of who you are or what you can do, then boom, that's maybe what the universe has dealt up on this case. And again, the third card is their connection, and it's a 3. Threes are communication, but they're also triangulation. It's a balance of the mind, body, and soul. With coins, you're dealing with foundation and security. Again, this justifies what I'm feeling, as in they're basically the same energy, just different bodies. It's basically the child is here to remind him of who he was or who he is supposed to be. because he's kind of fallen off his path. So, there's that, some of us as parents, we can look at our children and we can say, I see me in that child, because that child has all the potential that I may have once had, or even in some cases, all the potential of what I did have. Not all of us honor everything that we've always had going through our life course for whatever reason. And so I can see where a child that has all the hopes that an older person may have lost could be a useful thing to the universe. And that's what this basically is saying right here. Their connection is they're mirrors of each other, in a sense of by watching that child communicate, or even being in the presence of that child communicating, will give him some residual energies for him to be reminded of who he is too. The fourth card is getting into genders. Odds are female for me. So in this case, this is a female. It's the Three of Swords. Three again is communication and reasoning and all that good stuff. And swords are communication and reasoning. So as this person right here, the adult, he's a very good speaker, or she, I should say. She is a very good speaker. She's a very reasonable person, but that's part of her downfall, is because she relies on reason, and it'll probably come up later on, in a more or less unreasonable time. Like, she's just wanting things to be based on the way it should be. And life is showing her the way it is, and it may not be compatible, and that may be why she fell off her throne. The fifth card is the child's gender and trait. Again, a mirror. It's another three. Whereas this child uses reason, whereas the adult uses reason, this child is using energy and motion and movement and creativity. He's like, just not, she, again, is not going to be subdued. So, like, again, it was a three. Threes are females in my reckoning. So, whereas you have the adult who was using too much reasoning, which may have put him into a state of submission, you have a child who is basically honoring the energy that's afforded to him and justifying the position as a star. Their combined life lesson came up to be a 6 of coins in reverse. And it's sixes are foundations. Coins are foundations. Coins are security and grounding, basically what you're going to build yourself off of. A 6 is basically what you're going to build yourself off of. If you want to play it with the Christian analogy, the universe or whatever was built in 6 days. That's perfection. That's when everything is laid down in a foundation. So this is like, there was an opportunity afforded for them to figure out who they were. And this more or less is, this child may have been a part of that adult's life lesson, where this life lesson forgot where this adult forgot how to stand up on a life lesson because they went into submission and submitted their energy and power. This child was a breath of fresh air, saying, wait a minute, that child ain't contained, and he's still a child. That child looks like me, acts like me, and all that, yada yada stuff. I'm not saying that they, physically look like each other, but the energy is complementary. And if a person can see themselves in another person, then it gives them a chance to become who they, want to be, or who they thought that they should be. And that's basically what they're saying right here, was that where this one lost his foundation, there was an offering of an example for this person to fall back on, especially if this guy or girl, whatever the case may be, is a teacher energy. Sometimes those of us in that teacher role, we give up so much of our energy in the pursuit of trying to teach others that we forget to learn ourselves. So again, the manipulator energy was real strong right there, and somebody who is always around manipulations sometimes forget that they can easily be manipulated too, because they, subscribe to the same energies. And that looks like what happened there. Got manipulated, lost their power, forgot to stand on their power, seen a glimpse of it in another child right here, and boom, life lesson. Yeah, you needed to be shown so that you get back up off your butt and get back on your throne. That's what I'm taking out of it. The 7th card is the wind card, or the time period. It's a king. So you have the 10, and then you have, bear with me, you have the page, which is 11, and then you have the knight, which is 12, and 13, 14. Okay, so the king is a 14. Just wanted to make sure I got my math right. 14 times 4 is 560. Wow. Okay, so 540 years. 14 times 40 is 560. So roughly 560 years is the time period that this energy was likely manifested. 560 from 2018 would leave you in 1458. 1458. So 1458. This does not, again, like with the last reading, it still does not feel New World, Americas, or what I should say, but it does feel like it's between Italy and Spain. I am getting yeah, okay, see, I smell pizza. All right, so then I'm going to lean towards Italy, but it does not feel like it's left strictly to the Italian peninsula or whatever. So I will look in between Italy and Spain when I do a little research and see what was kicking off around 1458. So we'll use that as the guidance. What the critical situation was for that time period of 1458 was the Page of Wands. Basically, everything was giving you a message of how you were to move or how you were going to move. Pages are messengers and wands are fire. So it was just basically a low-key tumultuous time is what it feels like. And again, I have to do more research on that to figure out exactly. But it does feel like things were of a faster pace. And if you were just not keeping up with the times, then, okay, yeah. If you didn't keep up with the times and stay on top of your game, you would fall into manipulations because it was kind of like a large time for deceit and underhandedness is what it feels like. And if this person here, this adult energy, was just not on that life level of wanting to be nasty and grimy and trying to find the good in everybody, and that feels like that's an even longer past life issue. Like the previous life cycle for this person may have been filled with them participating in a lot of turmoil or worldly issues to where they wanted to take a break this time and try and learn some philosophical ways of existence. And it just wasn't a good time period because they're, again, 1458 under the Page of Wands. They're being just basically everything is telling you you have to move, keep up with the paces. And this person was just not fast paced that time. So I'll do some more research on that too. But the critical situation was keep up or get ran over. Their response to the situation was the Eight of Cups. And I could see where I'm going to have to do a little reflection on that. With the Eight of Cups, the primary energy for the adult was it was basically overwhelmed. There's just too much going on. They're already under manipulations because they're not owning their own power, and now they're just being hit from every angle. The duality side of that is this child here is a energy manipulator. That one is being energy manipulated. That's why they're that mirror 3. So this child energy here, that Eight of Cups becomes abundance. It's because their cups are full. And that was keeping them emotionally safe. If they were moving with the signs of times and they were moving well and everything was clicking for them, they could dibble and dabble into everything and still find their way out, then that kept them emotionally safe because they were basically honoring the other side of the coin that the primary energy from their existence was not doing. And that's sounding confusing, and I apologize to people if it is. It's not saying that they are exactly the same energy. It's just maybe they were mirror energies. I mean, hell, we're all energy at the end of the day anyway, but they were mirror energies, and one was there to be a reflection to the other so that neither one of them get lost. Because if you look at it, if you got somebody who's moving a little bit too fast in the fire, always on the go, they sometimes will need to see what it's like if they slow down. You know, is it safe to slow down? And in this case, this child was right. It wasn't safe to slow down. Whereas the adult tried to slow down and life just wasn't allowing for it. And now he's off the throne, or she's off the throne, I should say. And he needed to be shown that there's a way to move through all this energy and still be full. Still bring in your abundance, still honor your emotions, and still keep it going. And so that's why I'm calling these converse energies and basically working out in a sense of duality. Coming down to the last card, and it's a advice card, or basically what energy they can take into the now. I mean, it don't get no better. It's the Magician card. And I mean, the magician card is basically a one, and that goes into you need to recognize yourself, but you also need to recognize your potential. And your potential should be relegated as unlimited. You can do all things through yourself. And when he lost himself, or lost herself, I should say, then you got manipulated. This child came in here knowing self. And so he stayed on top of it, moved through life. Even in a rough, tumultuous situation, and I need to figure out exactly what was going on again in 1458, it didn't stop this child because that child knew its magic and it kept going. So the connection is reflection. The advice, stay on your magic. Even when people try and take your magic out of you, or even when you feel like your magic ain't working, stay on your magic. Get out of your head and be your biggest fan, and make sure you are manipulating and not being manipulated. And the caution with that is make sure that you are not thinking that everything has to be manipulated in the first place. There will be some things that you'll have to actively move your magic on, but in most cases, the magician card says you are magic in any event. Your very breath justifies that. So be magical as fuck. Peace and wholeness.